What's up, everybody? It's me, Bryson Booker, and it's time for a BBTV Pro Audio review just for you. So today I'm going to be finally, after about a year of owning it, I'm going to be reviewing my Soundcraft Signature 16 mixing console. Ever since I got this thing, it has literally been the backbone of almost everything I've done as an audio engineer. Unless I have to use somebody else's gear. But when I don't, this is the only thing that I have to turn to. And I got this console last year during my graduation, and as soon as I got it, I remember uploading an unboxing video of it. So again, there's tons of videos that I made about this console that I will put in the description, so you can go and watch those. But when I made that video, I didn't do anything with it. But now that I've had it since that time, it will be a year since I had this thing. I think June 6th. So I can say that I had it for a full year, almost at least. And I'm just going to give you a review on it. The Signature series was released by Soundcraft around 2015, and it's basically a culmination of everything that Soundcraft has done, at least in their terms, everything great that Soundcraft has done. They basically stuffed it into one awesome analog console and really wanted to advertise it as a recording console. You didn't really see too many ads with this thing in use in live performances. It's really advertised as a studio console, probably because of the USB recording functionality. But they released two variations of the Signature series. There's just the Signature series, which is basically this. You have the 10 microphone input, 12 microphone input, 16 microphone input, which is what this is, and the Signature 22, which gives you 22 inputs. And then you also had the Signature multi-track, and that came in two frame sizes. So you had the Signature 22 multi-track and the Signature 12 multi-track. And those consoles basically offered the same features as the regular Signature consoles, but the only difference is you could do multi-track recording on them. So you could literally record all individual tracks into your DAW instead of just the left and right mix or auxiliary mix like you can on these consoles. You could record every single channel into your DAW and then send it back into the console and remix everything. So that's what the Signature multi-track allowed you to do. But that's the only difference between multi-track and the regular Signatures. The regular Signatures basically have all the features that the consoles were made to have, just without the multi-track capability. So this is the Signature 16, 12 microphone preamps, and I think they count the stereo inputs as 13, 14, 15, and no, they actually don't. Yeah, they do. They count the stereo inputs as 11 and 12, 13 and 14, and 15 and 16. So, but generally, you got 12 mic pre's and then obviously 3 stereo channels. That's where they get the 16 from. So if you're wondering, it's not a fully 16 input microphone console. That would be the Signature 22, where you get 16 mic pre's. This one you only get 12, but hey, for a medium band, small house of worship, studio recording, you can't be beat. Can't be beat. Let's go through one of the channels here. So on the first 4 channels, you have your high ratio DBX limiters. So they basically collaborated with DBX and made these high ratio compressor units and put them right on the console. You really have to drive this pretty hard to engage this. But anyway, if you want to use it, just click it into the channel and then an LED will light up once the limiter is active on the channel. You have your microphone preamp, which is a Ghost mic pre, which comes from the Soundcraft Ghost console. Soundcraft Studio console released in 1996. They put that Pro mic preamp that was on that console in the Signature. You have 100 Hz high pass. You have your Soundcraft Sapphire EQ. This EQ is derived from the Soundcraft Sapphire console. This is another post-production recording console. See how they keep advertising this console as kind of like a recording console? They put all of their studio console technology into this. But the Soundcraft Sapphire is another recording and post-production console. where this EQ is very unique EQ. It's a very musical EQ. It's a very sweet sounding EQ. And when you boost frequencies, you have a wide boost. When you cut a frequency, it gives you a very narrow cut. So you can get rid of problems very easily, yet musically. So you have that type of EQ. You have your highs at 12 kilohertz, high mids at 2 kilohertz, 400 hertz, 2 kilohertz, and 8 kilohertz, and low mids at 80 hertz, 400 hertz, and 2 kilohertz, and lows at 60 hertz. I actually did a test with the EQ in a separate video. Again, I'll put it in the description. The auxiliary section employs technologies from Soundcraft's GB series. Now, the GB series is their live analog consoles. They used to be the flagship analog console that the company provided, but now I've kind of moved to the back burner since the digital products have come in. But thankfully, and praise God, the GB series is still on their roster of products. But this is technology derived from that console. Basically, the auxiliaries, which you get 3 of them. Actually 4 if you count the effects return, but really just 3. Over here, you have the ability to switch between pre-fade, so anything that you do on the fader won't be affected with the aux, or post-fade, so anything that you do on this fader will be affected with the aux. And they did that because you can basically, have an outboard effects unit and run it into the console. So you can click post-fade and bam. So whatever you do on your effects unit, you can just turn up the gain. It's going to be affected by the fader. So you have that switchable for all 3 auxiliaries. So you have basically pre and post switchable. So that's where that GB series technology came in, the switchable auxes. And then you have, again, your effects return, pan, mute button, solo button, or PFL. You have assignments, so you have the master assignment, and then you have subgroup 1 and 2 assign, and subgroup 3 or 4 assign. Here are the subgroups over here. So pretty easy, so you can unassign your channel from the master, go to subgroup 1 and 2, pan to the right to go to subgroup 1, and then your vocals or your instruments can be on subgroup 1. And then you could send the subgroup to the master itself. You could also run the subgroups in stereo. So that's what that allows you to do. And then you have your big, nice, smooth 100 millimeter fader. Beautiful. And so that's the same thing for channels 1 through 14, because this is a stereo channel, but they gave you the same functionality. Channels 15 and 16 is a bit different, so you have a trim up here, a trim knob. Then you have a sweepable mid EQ, so you have 12 kilohertz, sweepable mid from I think 250 hertz to 3 kilohertz, and I think in the middle is 750 hertz. And then you have a 60 hertz low frequency. Same deal with the auxes. You can switch between pre and post on your auxes. You got, wait, I'm sorry. Yeah, there we go. You got the effects knob right there, and then pan, and then obviously bus assigns. You have your effects unit right here. So this is backlit, so it's not plugged in right now, but once it's turned on, this will illuminate so you can see all the effects. This is your Lexicon effects unit. It has a bunch of reverbs and a bunch of modulation effects. Again, did a separate video on that. I'll put that in the description for you. Phantom power. You have a USB output. Now this particular USB output is for putting like an LED gooseneck light up here so you can see what you're doing. And I think it can charge a phone, but it's not meant for getting data. So you can't really put like your USB drive, thumb drive in there and expect it to play your music files. It won't do it. And then the last feature, you got your master fader and an interval mute. So this is actually a pretty cool feature. I like this, without muting individual channels. So let's just say your band is done playing and it's time for an intermission, and you don't want to individually mute all the channels, or your guitarist brought another guitar or somebody else's guitar and you have to swap out the inputs for something. All you can do is press that button and it will mute channels 1 through 13 and 14, and then it'll leave 15 and 16 open so you can play music. So it can be like some break music or whatever kind of music you want to play during that time. This is also useful when plugging stuff into the unit. So let's just say you're plugging everything in, getting everything set up for the show, and you want to listen to some music while you're plugging everything in. You can mute channels 1 through 14 and then have 15 and 16 open so you can listen to some music while you set up. So that was a pretty cool feature, and the interval mute does work very well. You don't get any pops or buzzes as you're plugging things into the mic inputs. Outputs. So you have your master, left, and right output. You have group outputs. So this is pretty cool. They gave you some group outputs so you can send it to a recorder or a multi-track unit if you want to. I was thinking about running a compressor through the groups, but these are just outputs. They're not group inserts. So you can't run like a compressor unit and run it back into this unit. I never really tried it yet, but for what these can do, you can run them to a recorder unit or a multi-track recorder and get whatever you're getting here. If you set some channels to groups, you can send it out to a recording deck. Have auxiliary outs, a headphone out, and a foot switch out for the effects unit. You have your stereo outputs here. This is channels 15 and 16, as well as your USB out. This is for recording. So this USB is not. That's for power. This is for recording. And you have two ways to record. You can record via the left and right mix, so from the master fader, or you could record via aux 1 and 2. So if you do that, you press that in, and then you can record, set your levels on the auxes over here. But if you're using these as monitor sends, keep in mind that's probably not recommended, because you'll get your drummers and guitarists and vocalist monitor feeds going to your computer, and that's probably not good. So it would probably be best to record from the main left and right. And that's basically the whole overview of the console. So I'm going to come back, do a part 2, and share my thoughts.